Hi, my name is Lindy Cowling. Welcome to the channel. My website is www.lindycowling.co.uk. Email is info@lindycowling.co.uk. And the title of the short video this evening is Can a twin flame make us ill, or can a twin flame make us sick? Can twin flame union or a twin flame make us ill? Can twin flames make us sick? So I'm bringing this video out by popular demand, really. It is a very common question, not only that I get asked, but that these circumstances are surprisingly common amongst people that believe they are in a twin flame union or they are connected with a twin flame. It also applies to other connections, but for the purposes of this video, I'm referring specifically to twin flames and twin flame union. So can being a twin flame, or can your twin flame, make you ill, make you sick? So let's go through this step by step, this video. So there are a number of different angles to take on this. What commonly happens is how people become kind of mentally ill over the process or during the process, or physically ill over the process or during the process, is the most common reason is they can become stuck and fixated on the set of circumstances in which they find themselves. Also, they can become stuck and fixated in the part of the cycle with these connections that's very common, where one or both of the party become very obsessive about one another, almost very stalker-like over one another, to be honest. And that can make them, either end of the party, very, very distressed. It can also get them stuck, and you can also go round and round and round that cycle of suffering. So when I say in the title, can a twin flame make you ill? Can a twin flame make you sick? It is a combination of the process and the circumstances that you're in. It isn't exactly them making you ill. It is your response to the circumstances that you're in, your response to the pain body getting triggered within you because of the connection that you're in. Yes, it is true that a proportion of these connections, one or the other, are connected to someone with a narcissistic personality, or full-blown narcissist, or a sociopath, or a psychopath, or someone with psychopathic tendencies. That is a whole different ball game, because not only do they have what is triggered within their pain body going on, and all of that side of it, but they also have the gaslighting and the mental messing with the head by the other twin going on at the same time, which of course can cause immense distress, immense instability, mental issues, post-traumatic stress disorder, all of those things in the twin on the receiving end of that. And of course that can contribute to making them sick. So let me kind of like backtrack like I always do, because sometimes I realize I kind of like racing ahead, and I like to explain things in depth. So again, what I'm saying about here could apply to any kind of connection, a soulmate connection, a catalyst connection. But really, for the purposes of this video, because of the unique in the sense of, when I say unique to twin flame union, not that it's better than, but because it's slightly different than a soul mate connection, because of the unique circumstances of aspects of same soul in other human bodies, in terms of the twin flames or twin flame union, that unique set of circumstances, let's say it heightens and intensifies both the negative and positive attributes of this part of the process. So because of what twin flames are, it heightens and exacerbates any issues in the emotional body, any issues in the pain body, any issues that were in the background mentally, or any issues in the family. They all tend to come up and out during the connection. So let's give a simple example. Say you are connected to a genuine aspect of same soul, i.e. twin flame in another human body, and they have borderline personality disorder. When you connect with that twin flame, those attributes are often off the charts, heightened, perhaps more so than they've ever been in that twin's life before. Because of the nature of who they are, everything is intensified and brought up to the surface, actually not to aggravate things, but for recognition, for healing, for processing through, and transmuting and transforming through. So that can be heightened if you have a twin flame that is a narcissist, which again is not uncommon, or has narcissistic traits, or a sociopath or sociopathic traits, or very psychopathic in personality or psychopathic traits. When you connect on the level you're connecting, of course, not only have you got the intensity of the connection, but those traits are exacerbating things within your personality, within your pain body, within your inner child, and making it far more dramatic, far more painful, because that's added on top of the original intensity of the connection. So there are two ways of looking at this. When I call the title, "Can being in the twin flame union make you sick?" or "Can being a twin flame make you sick?" There are two ways of looking at it. Part of what makes you, or part of what makes us sick, is our response to certain parts of the process, our response to not being able to control really hardly any of the process. All you can control is if you step back or don't step back, or walk away or don't walk away. All you can control really is that side of it. What causes a lot of pain and makes a lot of people sick is they really cling on with tooth and nail to try and twist it and bend the connection to what they want it to be, or how they want it to be. And that can make them sick. It can make them mentally sick. It can make them physically sick. I mean, actually be sick, get ill, bedridden, throwing up, all sorts of things. The harder they fight and kick and scream to bend twin flames or twin flame union into what they would like it to be, which usually what I'm talking about here is bending it into a conventional relationship format, which of course a genuine twin flame union is of course the opposite to a conventional relationship format. It is new relationship paradigm in the form of a template or a blueprint. In other words, with 20 things listed, there are 19 things before you get to number 20, which is the relationship aspect of a twin flame union. And that is after all of those 19 things of, that part of the process has been worked through, and it's not a conventional relationship, it is a active service templates. In other words, the relationship or partnership, sacred partnership, at the heart of it is the active service or the mission. So in that sense, it's not conventional connection, it's not a conventional relationship. I mean, it's so much more than that. Yeah, that is there, but it's so much more than that. And of course, why people are when they're trying to get their head around that or trying to accept that, of course, that can make them very sick, because they're fighting against it, they're resisting it, they're struggling, they're distressed, they're upset, they are head over heels in love with the person. The circumstances that these connections happen in the years that I've been involved in this template, since 2010 now, which is 7 years, 17 years working in the paranormal, the light worker industry. I hate that term, to be honest, light worker industry, but you know what I mean, that industry. The paranormal, in spirituality, as in humanitarian arenas. I've been doing that 17 years, but 7 years to do the twin flame union. In the whole time, in all of the people that I've worked with and met, I have yet to meet any genuine twin flames that just met straightforward, easy peasy, no complications, no going through the process. They just met and then they just went off into the sunset. I've met plenty of other soul connections that have done that, particularly soulmates, or the new form of connections, new relationship paradigm. Twin flame union almost always have been at various stages of a lifelong process, and they have not come in around each other in the conventional way. Can really on that subject, twin flame union are usually very, very polarized, but as they go down the line and work through their process over a number of years, they become far less polarized, and then they're in a more harmonized state. Have I ever met anyone that's done that overnight? Never. It's usually over a period of years. If you say how many years, well, everybody's different. I've never seen that happen in genuine twin flames or twin flame union. That's happened within the first few years even. It's usually a period of years that's happened. There are, of course, no hard and fast rules. Everybody's different. There are other connections I know of, either personally, professionally, or even that I can see on YouTube, that are born of that template, and that are, it is very clear they are in a harmonized format and they are doing great work with that. In other words, I can pick up straight away they've never been that polarized. So when they connected, they were already fairly unified within themselves anyway, harmonized within themselves anyway. So they didn't start from that position when the twin flame or a similar trajectory, a horse out of the same stable came in. So for them, it was slightly different variation of theme, slightly different journey. And from that sense, that respect, a little bit easier, because not so dramatically polarized like light and dark, night and day, hot and cold, etc. It's also obvious personally, professionally, and also very obvious on YouTube. In the rare case of where you do see a couple up there that are actually what they're saying they are, that it is not harmonized. And there's one clear example I'm thinking of where they actually don't look at all well, actually, not harmonized at all. One looks like they've been sucking the life out of the other one just is drained dry. And this is an important point to make, actually. Having been in that similar situation and being drained dry myself and not realizing it, when a genuine twin flame union is in the part of the process where it is not stable and it is not harmonized and it is not balanced, and there is one aspect of same soul eclipsing and sucking the life out of the other one, and yes, that can happen in genuine twin flame union. If you've got the same, I could describe it like a test tube. If you've got the same liquid in the same test tube and you have, it's like one lot runs down one end and you tip it, it runs down the other end. It takes a while to come into balanced format, and one can easily eclipse the other like a bell jar coming over the top. And of course that can make one or the other of them very, very ill, because, in fact, both of them, because at first it will seem like the twin that's sucking the life out of the other one is doing very well, but of course that imbalance is going to catch up to them and they're not doing very well at all, because if you think again, twin flame union, aspects of same soul, if one aspect of soul isn't doing very well and they're connected with each other, then the other aspect of soul is ultimately not going to do very well when they're connected around each other. When I say connected around each other, I mean in contact every day, seeing each other every day. Perhaps they're living together, perhaps they decided to get married. I'm talking about unusual circumstances here. There are very small minority that are around each other every day like that, because it takes a very long time to get into a harmonized balance. Otherwise it does what I'm saying here. And the temptation is, if people try to rush it and they leap in really quickly, not realizing what they are, a lot of them destabilize, and either they come away from the marriage, or one or the other gets sick, or both of them get sick, because they didn't actually quite realize what they were, or they did and they thought they'd got a handle on it. And then, because it's a polarized form of connection and it's just a process, it's not really that anyone's doing anything wrong there. It just takes the time it takes. They destabilize. That's, when I say that, I'm not being, I'm generalizing a bit there. Of course, not in all cases is that the case. It's also very obvious, personally, professionally, and, on media platforms like YouTube, where there are one or two that have, they are in a balanced kind of format, and they are fine, and you can see it's pretty much level pegging and they're adjusting all the time and they are in a balanced format. So everybody's different, but with the twin flame union, the title of this being can the connection make you sick, your reaction to the connection can make you sick. You're trying to control the connection can make you very sick, mentally or physically or both. Struggling against it and not accepting it can make you sick, mentally, physically, or both. Not accepting it, putting your fingers in your ears, trying to ignore it, not face self, not look inward, and all of those kind of things can make you sick. All different aspects of it. Also, again, if you're connected with somebody that has extremely challenging personality characteristics, whether they're twin flame or another connection, and you are on the receiving end of that, that can also make you physically or mentally sick. And again, what I would say to you, whatever the connection is you're connected with, if it is making you, if you are supposed particularly, if it's making you very, very distressed because you're on the receiving end of any kind of abuse, then walk away. I mean, any kind of physical or mental abuse, whatever the connection is, walk away. Regardless, so many people make the mistake of staying in the middle of very, very abusive situations, because they've convinced themselves it's something that it's not, or even if it is what they think it is, they still stay there because they think, oh well, it'll even out in the end. If you don't demonstrate that love and balance for yourself, within yourself, it will not even out and balance out in the end. You'll just get more and more of it. It's like a seesaw that gets destabilized. If you are just accepting, and the weeks and months turn into years, you're just accepting that, and you're not actually looking at your own self-worth, what it's doing for you, all of those aspects of it, coming into a full understanding of who you are, that unified state within yourself, that balance within yourself, you're just going to get more of the same. Again, if one aspect of soul is suffering for whatever reason, it's destabilizing the whole connection. So if you are just taking more and more of it, and you're spiritually bypassing and saying, oh well, it's a twin flame, it's twin flame union, this is what happens in twin flame union, the person treats me this way, they go round sleeping with loads of other people, then they come back again, and yada yada, every story you could possibly imagine, all really under the umbrella of abuse, physical abuse, domestic abuse, mental abuse, gaslighting, narcissistic abuse, whatever. You have to really, pull yourself up short and take stock and really look at, how is this really serving me? Is this bringing out the best of me, or am I a bubbling, blithering mess? Again, really, it doesn't, I could say to you, it doesn't, well, I say it doesn't matter. Look, in terms of, there are difference between being involved in very abusive circumstances there and having to step back for your own well-being, and going through a process of suffering because you're trying to control it, or you're not liking the circumstances you've been activated in, i.e. you're on different sides of the world, or vast age differences, or different cultural differences, or marriages, one or both of you. That, again, there's a difference between going through the process and getting tangled up and distressed because of that. And it's not that one's worse than the other, although, to be honest, psychopathic and narcissistic gaslighting and abuse and worse takes a lot longer for someone to get over, and it does do damage. I mean, again, it definitely does damage. So that's something to bear in mind. Again, it's really, what I would say to you is recognizing what and where your cause of distress and you feeling ill over the whole thing is coming from. Like I say, that is key to everything, because if you recognize, well, this is certain, it is actually characteristics in my twin or connection that's really making me feel unwell. It's important to say again, look, in an ideal world, it would be fantastic to see all genuine twin flame union and twin flames around each other in any capacity, living together, working together, best friends, romantically connected, in some kind of marriage. Wouldn't that be lovely? It would be lovely to see that, but I can't even say that's not always the case. It's only a small percentage of cases that it plays out that way, because of all the reasons I'm listing. Because the relationship element of it is the smallest consideration that the soul is considering. It gives you far higher consideration if you are in a soulmate connection, because soulmates are relationship templated. It gives you far better shot at it if you're in a catalyst connection, because a lot of catalysts are relationship templated. Okay, not always with each other, but they are relationship templated. New relationship paradigm, conscious relationship paradigm, hence the word relationship, all relationship templated, because they are imprinted on a blueprint or a template such as twin flame union. Are there exceptions to this? Absolutely. Definitely. I've seen a change in that arena where really, because let's say the twin flames have either individually, separately, before even connecting to one another, come into a state of unity and a state of higher consciousness within themselves before they even connected. So when they connect, it isn't vastly polarized, or they connected and it was very polarized, so this tug of war thing going on for a period of time. Then they stabilized individually, separately, and then came together in a harmonized fashion. So of course there are all those aspects there. But what I will say again is, if you find yourself in circumstances where you are feeling physically, mentally ill, totally destabilized, feeling obsessed, feeling like your world is falling apart, and of course aspects of your world falling apart are parts of a massive life change and awakening. We've all been through that. But if it's got to a point where it's really distressing for you, or you're on the receiving end of a lot of abuse, or what you need to do is recognize where it's all coming from. Are you trying to take the bull by the horns and control a twin flame union? And a twin flame union cannot be controlled like that. All you can do is, to a certain degree, make choices on how you want to handle things. Sometimes you'll be triggered outside of that element of control. All you can do is decide how to go forward in it, and the best way to go forward to it is understand exactly what is coming up for you, where it is coming from, why you're being triggered in the way you're being triggered. Some of what I'm describing goes with the territory. A lot of people that connect in these connections say they feel like a nervous wreck, as well as feeling full of euphoria and magic. They also feel like a nervous wreck. A lot of them either pile on tons of weight, or they drop tons of weight really quickly. All sorts of things going on because of the energy of the connection and the intensity. But if you are someone that it is affecting really severely, like mentally and physically, that you're feeling ill, try and discern and to give yourself a breather and try and look at if you can make sense of where that is coming from. Is it coming from you because you can't accept the circumstances that you've activated in? Is it coming from you because you feel afraid of the connection and all this massive great fear is coming up from you, or you've connected with someone that you don't feel attracted to in any way, shape or form, that you don't want to be romantically with, and yet you have this connection, so it's making you really angry about it. It's like, why have I got a connection with someone I don't even want to be with? It's important for me to say, you don't, when you have this activation of coming into a unified state, union within yourself, as well as the potential of union with the other, it's not always the purpose to be with them romantically. It's once you've been activated, it's the whole purpose is for the activation, the frequency, the blueprint, the template that you're putting out, but also to be, in some or one another's lives in some way. It doesn't always mean romantically. And again, the blueprint, the template, the act of service part of it is at the heart of it. So really it's questioning yourself on where you feel all that pain and suffering is coming from. If you ask me honestly, the most common reason is because people, they get very obsessive about it and they want to control it, or they want the circumstances in which they've been activated to be different. So if they've been activated and one or both of them are married, they want the other one to come out of the marriage, or they've had this vast awakening which they can never go back from now, and they can't accept that the other half of the seesaw, or the other part of the connection, the other aspect of soul, doesn't realize it in the same way, or the other part of the soul puts their fingers in their ears and decides they have other priorities other than twin flame union, for example, or they don't accept that there are vast age differences or cultural differences, and the list goes on and on and on. And so that creates a great amount of pain and distress and resistance in the aspect of same soul, because this is where it's exacerbated. It's same soul. So if you experience a perceived rejection or a perceived door slamming or a perceived abandonment, where it's aspect of same soul, of course it's far more exacerbated, because it doesn't really get bigger than aspect of your own soul turning its back on itself. Own soul would then be turning its back on itself in that form, but also you in your form, and so you do experience it in a different way. So what I would say to you again is, the first step really is identifying where that pain is coming from and why. And is it something in you, or is it an expectation of yours, a belief of yours? Working through that. Is it inner child stuff, like I say, pain body stuff that you're caught up in? Really what you want it to be or don't want it to be, all of those things. Then to also look at, hang on a minute, is it more than that? Is it that I have a connection, specifically a twin flame that is a narcissist, sociopath or psychopath, or any of those tendencies? If so, it's a whole different ball game, and you must consider your well-being first. And if you are on the receiving end of abuse, and there is not another word for it, in any of these connections, and you are getting emotionally or physically damaged, then again you need to look very seriously about why you're staying on the receiving end of that, and is that really showing love to yourself, within yourself, and mirroring it to the other? Is that really self-love? Is that really self-worth? And get to a point within yourself where you draw a line in the sand and say enough's enough. It doesn't mean you've given up on that. What it means is you've chosen love over everything else. And you could say to me, well, surely I haven't chosen love if I walk away from that aspect. If you walk away from a narcissist, sociopath or psychopath, twin flame, you're still choosing the overall love for the soul, because in order to get the soul to come out to its ultimate and highest fruition, it's going to be no good if you both go down into a dark pit. It's a whole soul game over then, isn't it? It's a question of always choosing the higher perspective. Okay, choosing the love. Even in some ways it would be choosing the love in the other aspect of soul as well, no matter how negative they were, because by choosing the love within yourself, you are choosing the love within them. You're choosing, if someone's coming from a black hole, you don't choose to jump down in the black hole with them and be in the black hole, because then you're both in the black hole. You choose to model being outside of the black hole. You give the other aspect of soul a chance to come up and meet you on that level playing field. And you are demonstrating and modeling love within the soul. Love for both aspects of soul, all aspects of soul actually, multidimensional soul, by modeling it, by being it, and by choosing the love in yourself. Okay, you could turn around and say to me, what if I do that but then they don't come to me after all? Well, what have you lost? If you've come from abuse like that, and then you do model love and they aren't capable of seeing that or receiving it or accepting it within themselves or within you, you've done yourself a favour. What have you lost? Yeah, I sound blasé about it. It's not as easy as that, because I know, because this is an experiential channel, so everything I share, talk about, is experienced personally by me or professionally. So I've been through that entire route. So I know what damage can be done. 20 sessions for severe post-traumatic stress disorder years ago, I had to receive. I know what damage can be done to the soul, and I know what damage can be done to you in personality, because I've been there, and I work with people all ends of the spectrum, from the most magical, beautiful, wonderful outcomes to those that have been down that end of the spectrum, and everything in between. So again, that's why I'm sharing this, because I've been asked to come on here to talk about this, because again, it's a very common theme in these connections. It's a common theme, and it's the most common arena of suffering, ironically, in the relationship paradigm. That's a big statement I just made there. The obsession, or the aspect of twin flames and twin flame union, is, in the terms of partnership and relationships, the most common form of suffering. And I can just see that in 10 minutes on the internet, let alone having worked in it for a number of years now. So that's a massive statement to make, and a lot of it is because people get entangled up in this way, or believing it's something that it isn't, and then holding on to it, and in extraordinary and extreme circumstances, which just keeps that cycle going. And again, I've referred to this many times before, because we keep coming back round to that point again, and yet nothing seems to be changing. I'm not the only one that's highlighted this. There are others that have highlighted that cycle of suffering and the contribution to it and the bigger picture, but it doesn't seem to be changing. So it always seems to track back to that. All I can do is just point out that balanced perspective as somebody that has experienced this process, come into the heart and into a unified, balanced state, and come through the other side of that independently now, and I'm still moving forward into new relationship paradigm and into new energy. In other words, beyond the twin flame union, and gone forward into new energy. Again, which I've referenced, before in many different ways, on YouTube and in video. So just to close, because this has turned into a very long video, which I didn't intend it to turn into a long video like this. Again, if you are feeling terribly ill, unwell, sick, some of that does go with a vast awakening, vast changes, all the fear and the change that comes with it. Going up massive vibrations in your energy field can make you feel wonderful, but when you drop a bit in that energy, it can make you feel, dire, awful again. So that's part of it, but also look at what it's bringing up for you in your pain body emotionally. Are you trying to control it, or are you connected with someone that has personality traits you don't particularly like, or that are very negative or very abusive? I mean, all of these connotations come into it. It's very hard to be rational and balanced when you connect on that level with something that knocks the stuffing out of you and takes all balance away. I mean, I know because I've been there. So you're not balanced at that point. You're anything but balanced. Your whole world has turned upside down. How you view the world has turned upside down. You've expanded hugely. You cannot look at life, yourself, or anything else the same again. All your emotions are going crazy. Your chemistry is going crazy. Kundalini is going crazy. All of these things are going crazy. And it's a point at time where it's really difficult for you to be balanced for a while, but it will balance out and stabilize out. So it's like baby steps, really, like I say, because it can become very overwhelming. Understanding what is happening and why, and keep looking back at you. The temptation is always to look at the other aspect of soul, the other one, and look at what they're not doing, or what you think they should be doing, or how they're managing it, or what they're not getting, or etc, etc, etc. Actually look at you. How are you feeling? How are you coping? What could help you? What is coming up for you? All of those kind of things. Is it because you're trying to control it, or is it because they're trying to control you? Can you communicate? Are you in a position with your connection or your twin to communicate openly with them, explain? Because that is an amazing way through. If you can keep open communication, but again, how do you keep open communication if your connection is a sociopath, psychopath, or a narcissist? That again is different. But if you can have an open negotiation, communication with them, of course, then that can work miracles, because then you can be saying, look, I know it's not rational, but this is how I feel. And they can be saying, you know, well, actually, that's exactly how I feel. And they can, it's almost like balancing that out. The ultimate goal and the ultimate aim, and I know it cannot be done overnight with people, is to get to a stage where, but it is a stage, and you're in the middle of a process, where you can be the authentic you, which sounds so blasé and so easy, and of course it's not at first, because there are layers to let go of before you can get to the diamond, the authentic you. And if you're being triggered by a twin which makes you want to run for the hills, and you're very frightened, or the fear that it brings up, the panic it brings up, the emotion it brings up, although they can see everything you are, have been, or ever will be, that is beautiful, magical. It can also terrify you, because then there's nowhere to hide. So it's, you get to stages of the process where you can at last be the authentic you. It is challenging doing it within a twin flame union, which is why it takes time, and why there's time where you're pushed away from each other and you're separated physically for a bit, and sometimes for more than a bit, while you're going through that. That's why it is challenging. But others activate when they've already come into a unified state of being before they've even met a twin flame. So if they meet a twin flame at that stage, it's not anywhere near as polarized, or anywhere near as dramatic and push and pull and light and dark and hot and cold, because they had already got to a rate of consciousness or a state of evolution where they didn't begin at a polarized level. They started in a unified state, and connecting with a twin at that rate didn't destabilize them. How do we know this? Because we see it. We see it. So, for example, if I use myself as an example, I would be surprised and amazed, but then, hey, you know, I've been living in a Harry Potter film for the last 7 years now. I would be surprised. I think nothing would amaze me well, I say nothing would amaze me. I've seen so many things in a way, who knows? But I'll word it this way. I'm not expecting to, so I'd be surprised if another twin flame arrived on the scene. If they did, it would not be like any experience I've had before with the original twin flame, because I have changed vastly, and I am not polarized, I am not destabilized, and I'm in a balanced format. So I will connect with a balanced format of an aspect of same soul, or I will not connect with any aspects of twin flame again in this life, and I will connect with someone in a conscious relationship, a heart connection. You get to a stage, and I've got to a stage, where actually the last thing I'm looking for is another aspect of same soul, twin flame. I don't even mind if it's not soul family, soulmate. It doesn't really matter to me. What matters to me is the level of conscious connection. You know, a wonderful person, a good person coming from the heart, that's all about love. Who knows who they are, who's done their inner work, they're in a balanced format. It would not matter to me what label you put on that person. I've grown well beyond that now. Again, I use myself as an example just to make the point, really, that I'm a very different person to the one that was activated in 2010 in Twin Flame Union. I have come a long way through that process now into the heart, and I would not expect, in fact, you know, I'm testing into it now, funnily enough, for myself. I know, I have the knowing on that I wouldn't connect in a polarized fashion again. So it would be a very different, a much more harmonious form of connection. Anyway, on that note, this is a very long video. I didn't mean it to be that long. I will love you and leave you. I hope you found that interesting. I hope that helps. Obviously, again, if you're in someone that is going through the ringer and that you are suffering mentally, emotionally, please do seek out help. That help, you may seek it out within the arena that I'm talking about, or you may seek it out through another arena, you know, in another way. But do seek out assistance if you're on overwhelm. I'm very, very big on this point. I couldn't have done it on my own. I mean, and I'm a qualified therapist, but I'm a human being. I couldn't have done it on my own without the assistance that I had. I couldn't have. So you don't think you have to do it on your own. There are many avenues there to help you and plenty of support around you to help you through whatever part of the process you are in. On that note, I will love you and leave you. As always, thank you for watching. I hope that helps. Thank you for resonating. And thank you for supporting and subscribing to this channel. Take care of yourselves, guys. Bye.